Quite honestly, there are two mistakes we should avoid. One is to believe that anti-proselytization measures, part of the Yarovaya law, are completely uninfluential. They are influential, and international scholars have listed the number of people arrested or incriminated under these provisions, which have affected the Hare Krishna, some independent evangelicals, and even some indigenous groups such as neo-pagans and others. But so we cannot say the anti-proselytization law is completely uninfluential. But it would be equally wrong to say that the problem for new religious movements in Russia come mostly from the Yarovaya law, because they come mostly from an older provision, which is the fact that the law on terrorism and extremism has been amended in 2006 to reflect and to include also verbal extremism, not only physical extremism or terrorism or threatening physical extremism, but also verbal extremism. And that has led to a very broad definition of extremism, which includes, for instance, religious exclusivism, or claiming that a religion as a unique way or path to salvation, which includes measures of disconnection or shunning against former members, etc. And this definition of extremism is clearly unacceptable and put the country at odds with international law, because there is no such prohibition against religious exclusivism or shunning of ex-members acceptable to international law on religious freedom, and also similar attitudes or measures exist also in most mainline religions.
In freedom, well, if I may, since now we are celebrating the 70th anniversary of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, there was this woman, magnificent woman, Eleanor Roosevelt, who was in the drafting. And she said something that I always keep in my mind, which is something like oneself could talk about peace or human rights. One has to believe in peace and human rights, but in addition to that, one has to work to get peace and human rights. So I would think that we have all the international human rights declarations. We have, in a way, we believe in that. There were many strong believers in the room, but I think that we really have to go on the ground and work on human rights and on freedom of religion. That would be my main concern, like really working on it, yeah. And if we have a human rights framework, it means that you and me, no matter what, we're equal. So your beliefs are equal to my belief. Why? Because it's attached to the human dignity. It's your soul which is at stake. So we'll have to respect each other. You can use the term religious tolerance in terms of managing religious diversity. This is fine. But if we talk about human rights, I will say we have to use the discourse of human rights and freedom of religion. And if we use that, I will say that it is important not only to have a religion and to practice that religion. That's what we call the forum externum, the manifestation of religion. If one cannot practice the religion, they cannot get together with their own colleagues or members of the church, and they cannot really live their identity as a believer. So I think that for any state, Russia or whatever state, has to protect the manifestation of religion, and that means what the international human rights text say, which is manifesting religion means to respect worship, teaching, practices, and observance. That regarding freedom of religion. And regarding, if you want to call it religious tolerance, I will say that I appreciate this kind of roundtable because in a way it could be a way of putting together how to deal with diversity, how to manage religious diversity, because we want it or not, it's coming. Diversity is in our own territory. We're all diverse, and we have to live with that. And the state have to have the approaches to deal with diversity. So we recommend just to learn from each other. I think that Europe is also facing a huge, challenge about how to integrate and how to do diversity, and that's why our motto in Europe is union in diversity, because it's how we're facing diversity. So this is the main point. So that I will call it no toleration or to tolerance, but I will say managing religious diversity. Yeah.
Sometimes listening, it sounded a little bit as if the growing number of small religious groups that show up in Russia, as if there is some plan behind it. Yeah, I think that Russia sometimes could take a calmer approach by realizing that in times of globalization, number one, Russians, also Russian Orthodox Christians, end up anywhere in the world. Yeah. And so suddenly the church is involved with every country in the world. Yeah. But on the other side, every week more small groups end up in every country. Yeah. So you might have a rare religion on an island somewhere which nobody ever has heard about, and they look for work, they look for business, they end up. And I think it's very often not a big plan behind it that could be dangerous, but it's really just people wandering around. And to give them hospitality, you don't need to accept what they say or what they believe, what they practice, but especially when it is just them practicing in private what they believe, I think an approach where you say, okay, this is how people are. Let they think, let them live, because in the long run it will not be possible to put everybody in prison that comes with a strange religion or philosophy. And when I look at the numbers worldwide, that's growing. Yeah, that's the same. People start to marry all over the world, and the spouses they bring come from unexpected languages and religions, and so. And I think that if you suddenly have a group of, 5,000 people in Russia, that in itself will not change the tradition of the country. It will not change the interest of Russia to have control over the countries versus criminality, extremism. Yeah.